The EU wants to enforce all manufacturers to either improve on some safety systems or driver aids that are already fitted to cars, and they also want to force them to fit some new systems to cars that we haven't ever seen fitted to any cars yet. Now, here in the UK, we're quite fortunate in that some of these systems that are already fitted to new cars can be switched off by the driver or requested to be disabled by the manufacturer, because at the moment they're not required in the UK. However, Lord Hendy, the Minister at the Department of Transport, has gone on record to say that the UK government are currently reviewing which of these 19 improvements or new systems could work on all cars here in the UK. Now, although some reports of these would have you believe that it's something to do with Brexit, it's actually got nothing to do with Brexit whatsoever. And this would make sense for them to be fitted into every single car. Cars that are built in the UK are also sold in the EU, and cars that are built in the EU are sold here in the UK. Manufacturers aren't going to stipulate all these changes to cars depending on which country they're sold in or where they're going to be travelling to. So the manufacturers will just fit them to all cars, and countries that don't require them to be activated, such as here in the UK at the moment, they'll be disabled from manufacturer, or they'll be set up in the car systems so that we, the drivers, can turn them off if we don't want to use them. Now, of course, all new cars on the road these days are so much safer than they used to be. Wander around your local dealership and the cars for sale on the forecourt, they'll be 100 times safer than my 57-year-old Dodge Charger that's currently parked outside. These days we've got things like ABS, we've got airbags, we've got side protection bars, we've got crash barriers, we've got everything built into the cars these days to make them as absolutely safe as possible. And we all want to have safe cars. We all want to, when we're on a journey on the motorway, we all want to make sure that we're as safe as possible in our car. But with some of these 19 things that are coming out from the EU, could this be a step too far? The UK currently has the third lowest deaths per million out of 32 countries, currently sitting at 25 deaths per million road users. Now, you could argue that 25 deaths per million road users is still too high. In fact, you could argue that even 1 death per million road users is too high, and that any safety system that can be brought into line and brought into activation would have to be good news. But will it make new cars more expensive? Will it be more technical equipment or more computerised equipment and sensors that when it goes wrong is going to cost a fortune to put right? Now, at the moment, there's no actual information on how many of the 19 new or improved safety systems the government are actually considering applying into new cars here in the UK. But I do have the details of all 19 systems that are being mandated into new cars by the EU. There's also no date available yet as to when the EU want these mandated into all new cars. You'd have to think it's going to be sometime later this year or possibly next year, though, the EU being what the EU is. And they're all part of the EU General Safety Regulations, which became compulsory in 2024 for all cars sold in Europe. Now, some of these systems we already have in cars over here, and they're probably the ones that the EU are going to be looking to mandate the improvement of to make them more noticeable or harder to ignore when they're operating in the car. And some of the other ones that aren't available on any cars anywhere at the moment, some of them are kind of okay, but others, geez, certainly some of the other ones can be downright intrusive by the looks of it or by the sounds of it. I have got all the information and we're going to get into that right now. So the first one is autonomous emergency braking. Now, this one's been around for a while on cars in the UK, and you may already have had experience of it if someone's run out in front of you or if you're getting slightly too close to the car in front of you, and your car will automatically apply the brakes and slow down. Can be a bit jerky sometimes, but it does seem to work well until, of course, a plastic bag or something blows across the road in front of you and the car seems to think that that's a small child or an animal, and it'll slam the brakes on for no reason whatsoever. Certainly something that needs looking into. But that one, as I said, we already have that in cars. However, the EU are looking to improve that so it becomes more autonomous. I don't know how that's going to work. I don't know what the mechanics behind that would be, but that's one of the ones that are looking to improve further. Number 2 is something that we haven't actually seen in cars over here as yet, as far as I know, but it is something that has been hinted at in the past. It's driver drowsiness detection, something that's going to be built into the car to prevent you from driving if the system thinks you're too tired to be driving. Now, whether you'll be driving down the motorway and it'll flag up on a screen somewhere saying you've been driving for too long, you need to take a break, or you haven't blinked for 25 seconds, it's time to pull over and have a break. Who knows? No idea how it's going to work. But that is one of the things that the EU are mandating to come in. And it's also one of the things, obviously, that our government is looking into to be applied onto all new cars. Now, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Let me know in the comments below what you feel about that one. Number 3 is lane departure warnings. Now, this one's going to be different from the lane departure assist that we currently have. You know, when you get a little bit close to the white line, you get a 1/16 of an inch of your tyre tread on the white line in the middle of the road, and the car goes mad with bongs and beeps and the steering wheel's vibrating to encourage you to get back into your own lane. Don't know how this one's going to work, but by the sounds of it, they're either going to improve on lane departure assist, or they're going to make a stronger version of lane departure assist and rename it lane departure warnings, so that your car can actually fight with you over which lane the car wants you to be in or thinks you should be in at the time. And that one's going to be hilarious when you try to overtake somebody, obviously. In much the same way as number 4 will, lane keeping assist. Now, the difference between lane keeping assist and lane departure warnings, God knows what that is or how that's going to work out, but there's two. One's going to be improved on the ones we've got already, or a separate system for that one, and the second one linked into that one. It's going to be a complete nightmare. Why? Do we need that? Now, number 5, I do like the sound of, and it does actually sound like a really good idea. It's the emergency stop signal. So if you're going down the motorway and something's happened in front of you, or driving down the road and something happens in front of you, and you have to slam your brakes on in an emergency, your hazard lights will automatically flash. So if you brake hard for whatever reason, your hazard lights are going to flash around the car to let everybody around you know that there's something up in front of you that they maybe can't see. I do like the idea of that one, and I think that one should be implemented. I think that one should have been implemented in cars ever since they've had hazard warning lights. Number 6 is a reversing detection system. Probably a lot different to the parking sensors that we've all got inward bumpers in the back of a car at the moment. The thing is though, when you're reversing into a parking space or out of a space, will it recognise that 3-inch weed at the back of the car is a 3-inch weed, or will it think it's some kind of solid object that you're about to drive your car into whilst you're backing out of the space or backing into the space? So I don't know how that one's going to work. I don't even know if we need that one. I mean, we've all got mirrors, we've all got eyes, for God's sake. Do we need things like this? Number 7 is blind spot information system. Now, you might be thinking, well, I've already got that on my car. If a car comes up in my blind spot, there's a light that flashes on the door card, or there's a light on the dashboard, or a beep that goes off. We've already got this. Why it needs to be improved, or why it needs to be there at all? Again, we've got eyes, we can just look to see what's going on. We've got mirrors we can check. I don't know why we need to have something like this, but if it's already fits the car, which I know it is to a lot of cars in the UK, on the road in the UK at the moment, it's probably something they're going to improve upon, which probably means more bongs, more beeps, more flashing lights, something like that. Number 8 is a crash optimised front end, designed to reduce injury to pedestrians or cyclists in the form of an accident which involves your vehicle and a pedestrian or a cyclist. It'll also make the front end of every car look exactly the same. They'll all be softer, and there'll be more damage caused to the car in a collision with whether it's a person or another object or something like that. However, if it does reduce injury to the lives of a pedestrian, then obviously it has to be a good thing, and it would be to be commended, as long as it's not going to make the cars more expensive to have this softer, rounded front end, I would have thought. And number 9 is improved crash test performance. Now, this is probably one that's going to be more related to the car manufacturer when they're designing the cars and testing the cars before they go on general sale. Not something really for the buyer to worry about. But obviously, if you know that you're going to go out and you buy a car and it's got a 5-star Euro NCAP rating, as long as it hasn't got any touch screens in it, like I was on about in my last video, then all's good. So this is probably another one of those ones that is really worth having and really worth implementing. And number 10 is improved seatbelt reminders. Apparently, even though it's been law in the UK for seatbelts to be worn in the front of a vehicle since January the 1st, 1983, they still reckon that there's not enough people actually remembering to put their seatbelts on, even though you have a buzzer or a bong or something going off in the car. So they're going to improve on the notification from the vehicle to remind you to put your seatbelt on when you're in the front before you set off on a journey. I don't know what this will entail. Will the buzzer be louder? Will the light be brighter? Will it flash more frequently? Will it be in front of your face when it's flashing or something like that? Or will it go all out and put some kind of ignition interlock into it, so it's like a lockout system that when you're in the car, until you buckle your seatbelt, you won't be able to start the car until that connection is made. Anybody's guess. And following on from number 10, of course, number 11 is rear seatbelt reminders, because apparently nobody in the back of the cars are putting seatbelts on these days. So that reminder's that's a brand new one, that's going to be installed in cars just to make sure that everybody in the back gets to put their seatbelts on as well. Now, here in the UK, it became law in the rear of vehicles for children to wear seatbelts in 1989, and it also became law for adults to wear seatbelts in the back in 1991. If you're enjoying this video, you find it informative in any way, caress the like button as we move on to number 12, which is Advanced TPMS, that's the tyre pressure monitor system. They're going to improve on that. I'm not quite sure how they'll improve on that or make it better. Maybe one of the things they're going to do to improve on it is actually make sure the damn thing works properly instead of giving off the false alerts when there's nothing wrong with your tyre pressures. So I don't know how that's going to work, but they want to improve on or make the tyre pressure monitoring system on the vehicles more advanced. And number 13 is advanced emergency braking for lorries and buses. Now, I can't see how this would be a bad thing unless the system completely destroys itself and it doesn't work, or it works badly in some circumstances. But the size of some buses and certainly the size of some lorries, it can't be a bad thing that they're going to try and work out some way of making the emergency braking system better for those, seeing as how they are so large and they weigh so much. And of course, they take so long to stop as well. Number 14 is direct vision for blind spots on HGVs. Now, yeah, I know it doesn't really apply to cars, it's to HGVs, but in these circumstances, I'm sure we've all seen clips on the internet or on TV of some HGV barreling down the motorway with a car stuck on the front of it that the driver has no idea is there. If it's going to make blind spot vision better for wagon drivers or HGV drivers, then certainly I would have thought that can only be seen as a good thing. So if you're a lorry driver or an HGV driver and you already have this, or you think you should need this, let me know in the comments below. I'd be really interested as to how you think that works, and is it actually possible for you to pull on, be coming down a motorway and not see a car that's pulling up alongside you and get it stuck on the front of your truck? Is that a possibility, or is that normally down to some driver just not paying attention somewhere? I'd really like to know how that works. And now I'm actually torn on how useful number 15 is going to be. It's side collision warning. I mean, what? Do we need the car to tell us that we're in danger of having somebody collide into the side of our vehicle? Have we not got eyes? Have we not got mirrors? Can we not see what's going on? Surely if we get to a junction to pull out on a main road, or we get down a slip road to pull on or off of a motorway, we do have mirrors. We can check our mirrors to see what's around us or about heading to the side of us. Is this something we really need? Side collision warning? I'm lost for words. And number 16 is pedestrian and cyclist protection. Now, I'm purely guessing at this, but I'm guessing that it may be a case of, when you park your car, you pull up to the side of the road, and you're opening the door to get out of the car, and you haven't noticed that there's a cyclist or a pedestrian, you open the door and knock them off the bike or knock the pedestrian over. I'm guessing there's going to be something like that, because surely the blind spot warning that we have would already alert us to the fact that there's something in our blind spot, like a cyclist or a pedestrian, if they're running alongside the car on the path or something like that. So I don't know why we need this one, unless it is solely to detect that there's somebody close to your door before you open the door. Now, these last three are really the most controversial ones, I would have thought. As far as I'm aware, they haven't been fitted to any car ever at any time as yet. However, when I go through them with you, you'll realise why I think that they're so controversial. On the one hand, you could look at them as being a good thing, but on the other hand, what if they go wrong? And what if somebody else can control them? I mean, obviously these days, most new cars on the road these days are connected to the internet, and if they're connected to the internet, that means that someone else somewhere else can have control of them. It's just one of those things. Anyway, number 17 is alcohol interlock compatibility. This is the system that decides whether you've had too much alcohol to drink before you're getting in the car to drive the car home. I don't know how the mechanics work. I don't know how the electronics are all going to work. I don't know if it's going to be some kind of sensor above your head somewhere that's going to sense alcohol on your breath, or there's going to be some little tube sticking out the front of the dashboard that you have to blow into before you can actually start the car and wait for the results to come on screen. I don't even know if maybe you do get in the car and you have had far too much to drink as far as alcohol is concerned in order to make the journey that you're hoping to make. If the car will just lock out completely, won't start, and it'll call the police, and the police will come down to breathalyse you before you're allowed to drive the car. No idea how that's going to work. Does seem to be incredibly intrusive. I can see the safe side of it. Obviously, we don't want drunk drivers on the road. We want to keep them all off the road as much as possible. But building something like this into the system of the vehicle, is that the right way to do it? Is that the right way to go? Let me know what you think in the comments. And number 18 is an intelligent speed assistant. Now, I think some cars in the UK already have this. It is, however, disabled by the manufacturer because we're not required to have it activated on the cars as yet, but the system is in some of the cars. You may be able to find it in these touchscreen menus as you're scrolling through. I don't know, I haven't got one, I don't want one. But Intelligent Speed Assistant, now the way this is going to work, at the moment, if you do have something like that switched on in your car, because I think we can turn them on if we want to, as you approach a speed limit, if you're on a 70 mile an hour speed limit and you clip over to 71 or 72, you'll probably get a beeper or a buzzer going off in the car to alert you to the fact that you're over the speed limit. Okay, slightly annoying, but a good thing because it tells you you're going over the speed limit if you weren't aware you're going over the speed limit. However, this particular one, the intelligence side of it, what it's going to do, if you're going down the road and you're in a, let's say you're in a 60 or a 50 mile an hour zone, if you get to 52 or 62 miles an hour, the car's actually going to be configured to take over from you and actually slow the vehicle down to within the speed limit. Now, on paper, that might sound like a really good thing. However, in the real world, if you've pulled out to overtake a line of cars and there's something coming towards you, and all of a sudden the car goes, oh, hang on a minute, you're doing 51 in a 50, I'm going to put the brakes on, and there's a car coming, there's some other form of traffic coming towards you, I can see that being a complete nightmare. So I don't know how that'll work, and I certainly don't like the sound of that one. I know we have to all slow down, and I know we have to stick within the speed limit guidelines, but even so, that is certainly something that we should maybe leave to the authorities to catch us for, rather than leave getting the car to make the decision as to whether we're going too fast or not. And finally, number 19 is an event data recorder. A black box for the car, if you like, similar to the black box in aeroplanes, and probably similar as well to the insurance black boxes that a lot of you may already have fitted in your vehicle. Now, on paper, what they're saying is that this is to detect what you were doing or what the vehicle was doing the moment before an accident, if there is a road accident you're involved in, during the accident, and after the accident. So presumably, this will detect that you've actually hit something, and then it will also detect if you're that way inclined that you've started the car back up, backed out from whatever it is you've hit and driven scarpered off down the road to try and get away with it. This, again, could be a good thing, but if it's a black box that records everything that's going on in the car, I can pretty much guarantee it's not going to automatically switch itself on if it thinks the car is going to be involved in an accident. It's something that's going to be running all the time in the background, and of course it'll record every single detail of every journey you do, possibly how much you're spending on fuel in the car, and obviously, definitely, it'll record how many miles you're doing in the car within a certain range of a time period, maybe it's on a daily period or a monthly period or something like that. This one, I most certainly don't like the sound of. I'm glad they're just putting them in all new cars and not in all existing vehicles as well. The insurance ones are bad enough, for God's sake, why do we need that? Now, at the moment here in the UK, any of these systems that are already fitted to cars can be disabled by the manufacturer, and usually are disabled by the manufacturer. The ones that aren't disabled, the driver of the car has the ability to switch on, switch off, decide whether they want to use it or not. It's not a legal requirement in the UK to use those systems on the road permanently at this precise moment in time. However, for a lot of EU countries, it is mandatory that these things are fitted and that they're running constantly in the car at all times. Now, a company called IAM RoadSmart did a survey of 2,000 motorists, the results of which proved to them that not enough of us in the UK are using these systems, these safety systems, these driver aid systems or driving assistance systems. They've said not enough of us are using those on a normal everyday basis, and they're trying to get the highway code changed to make the use of systems like this compulsory for every driver in the UK. Their report said that only 25% of drivers are using collision warnings and cruise control when they're driving, and that younger drivers and those of us who drive more than 10,000 miles a year are much more likely to use systems like this when we're out and about on the roads, whereas the average driver or the older driver or more casual drivers don't bother with them and find them completely irritating and totally unnecessary in the car. Could that be because older drivers know how to drive properly? Or is that just me being a bit controversial there? The IAM's own conclusions from the survey is that some drivers switch them off because they find them annoying or they just don't understand how they work and would rather not use them. So with poor user experience and maybe sometimes the system's failing or not working correctly, obviously the right course of action and the right thing to do is not to repair the system to make sure it works properly and teach people more about what they do and how they work and how to use them correctly. The right answer, obviously, from the IAM is to just force people how to use them and make them compulsory so you have to use them whether you want to or not. Now, if we're all forced to use these on our new cars, with all these systems turned on, are you still driving a car, or is it more a case of you're just controlling a machine? Or maybe, just maybe, your car's in control of you. If you've enjoyed this video, consider subscribing to the channel, and if you want to see more stuff like this on the other videos I've done, I'll leave a link up here so you can click into that and get to see all of those ones. And there's loads of links below in the description with regards to various ways you can support the channel, including if you want to become a channel member and see loads of behind the scenes stuff that goes on that will never be seen on this standard YouTube channel. Thanks for watching this one though. See you next time. Bye for now.